Greetings, my name is Theo and today I wanted to show you a build that I keep coming back to every time I pick up the Charge Blade. This is overall an incredibly good build for any monster you can manage to land the Super Amped Impact Discharge on. Which basically means the discharge where you release all the reloaded files you've prepared, and this can dish out some really excellent damage, making whomever you hit with it stagger, tremble, fall down, and get broken body parts all day long. So anyways, let's stop mentioning the obvious and let's just jump over to the stats. The stats. So since this is a discharge-centric build, this means that you want to increase the damage of the discharge as much as possible. You simply do that by getting the attack skill as high as possible, whether it's through attack boost or peak performance, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you do it, it just matters that you do it, as it increases the flat-out damage for it. However, here I choose to have attack boost level 7, and this is because I'd much rather have a flat-out large number all the time than to have a risk-reward system while also using a healing augment on the weapon itself with, say, peak performance. So we get plus 21 attack and 5% critical strike chance with that one, but the critical strike chance isn't something you have to think about at all, as the discharge isn't affected by critical strike chance. And we actually have minus 25% crit chance at all times, which simply means you do 25% less damage with weapon hits, roughly 25% of the time, but this doesn't really affect much of the build at all. Next up we have focus level 3, which increases the fill rate for weapons with gauges and charge rate for weapons with charge attacks by 20%, which simply means that you attack with your blade less before you can reload it and go into axe mode to dish out the real damage. Underneath we have the artillery level 3, which increases the power of the discharge itself by 30%. And it's really not much more to it. Now, for the next skill, you could always put in peak performance level 3, but it's usually at the loss of an attack stat or two, which I don't really like doing for this particular build, as it's again with a risk-reward factor. So I'd rather have the extra flat-out attack and have that at max, and then increase the attack stat occasionally through Agitator, which in this case is at level 2 and increases the attack stat by plus 8 whenever the monster becomes enraged. You also get additional 6% crit chance with this one, but as I said previously, you don't really have to think about the crit chance at all. You could of course increase Agitator to higher levels, but that's also at the cost of flat attack boosts without losing any of the other skills, which I find vital for this build. We also have capacity boost level 1, which increases the number of files you can have in your charge blade by 1, so instead of having 5 files, you now have 6. And since the weapon we use is a non-element weapon, we of course have to plug the non-elemental boost jewel in it, increasing the damage numbers even higher. And as an addition, but also a non-vital part of the build, we got Divine Blessing level 1. And that one really just came with the chest, as the chest has 2 level 2 jewel slots, which is how we cram in so many big stats. It's not a big part of the build at all, but it's always nice to have a chance at taking less damage than you originally would. Now for the gear, what armor am I actually using? Starting off, we of course go with the trustworthy Diablo weapon, the Diablo's Tyrannus 2. And as you can see, it has minus 30% critical strike chance, but once again, it really doesn't matter all that much. The reason we use this weapon is because it has the highest impact value out of all the charge blades. And that's as of making this video, of course, so don't bash me if there are better weapons in the future when G rank comes, which there will be. It also has impact files and it's a non-elemental weapon. All these things makes us able to get them big hits through the discharge. And if you want maximum output damage, you can augment it with 2 attack augments, but I personally prefer to use 1 attack augment and 1 health regeneration augment, as you heal up quite decently with all attacks. And yes, all attacks. That means if you land a discharge properly, which it will because of course you're awesome, it will heal you by quite a significant amount. Meaning you can wail at the monster even longer, considering you don't have to bring those pesky potions and heal yourself with them. Ugh. And yeah, if you hit several monsters with it, you will heal even more. Next up we got the Diablo's Nero Helm A, which has level 2 focus, and into the helm itself we got a level 1 attack jewel. For the chest we got the Brigade suit, which I use in so many of my builds, just because you're able to slot 2 level 2 jewels of whatever you would desire. Which in this case is the Magazine Jewel 2, which increases the capacity boost, and the Charger Jewel 2, which increases the focus skill. And if you don't have these 2 jewels, I have another solution for you guys, as I know they are quite rare, but we'll get back to that later. On the chest itself we also have Divine Blessing, but you already know how much that's not a part of this build, so let's skip that. On our clappers we have the Nergigante Vambraces A, and this is because they give out more of the stats we want than the B version of it. Here we have Agitator level 2 and Attack Boost level 1. No gem slots here, sorry mate. Next! And for the leggings we come out with another Nergigante piece, the Nergigante Coil B. This of course has +2 attack, and into them we have put the Elementless Jewel 2. The feet are the Dober Greaves B with another +2 attack, and into them we've slotted an Attack Jewel level 1. And if you don't have the second attack jewel, just use, I don't know, something else. And to get the artillery skill all the way up, we're lucky enough that the artillery charm actually goes all the way up. So that's the charm of our choice. And here's a final overview for the ones who wants to see everything at once. Now, if you don't have the focus jewel or the magazine jewel, here's roughly how I do the build. You don't get +7 attack unless you have enough attack jewels, and you lose out on agitator or peak performance of course, but in terms of damage you're still quite up there. And in the places of the focus and magazine jewel you can always go with a couple of Partbreaker jewels or KO jewels to just make whatever you want better. It could of course be something else as well, it's whatever you make it to. But the KO jewels are quite good considering you do so much impact damage, you know. And here's how it would look if you had the magazine jewel but not the focus jewel. Anywho, enough about gear. How do you play? Now, Charge Blade is arguably one of the most advanced weapons to play due to its many factors of what you can charge and what you have to do to be able to do the maximum discharge, releasing all the files at once, instead of just doing a measly pot on the head. As I was doing for the first half of the freaking game, but we don't talk about that. And this next part is mostly for those who have no clue about how the weapon works, so if you just came for the build, you're free to go now. I mean, you could leave if you don't know how it works as well, but here's the chance, you know. So, starting off, what the hell do you do with a weapon? Well, first off, you start out in sword mode, which of course means you have a shield to block with as well. But while you're in blade mode, every hit you do with the blade is contributing to charging the blade up. And up in the left corner where you see the files, you can see that the file starts to glow in different colors. Yellow and red. This is also shown on the sword, so if you're more into watching that, feel free. I myself like to watch the files as they can't be blocked by the monsters you fight. So what does the colors mean? Once you see yellow, you can reload the weapon pressing R2 plus circle or R1 and B on Xbox. This now reloads 3 files. But you don't want to do that unless speedrunners do that in some cases. So red it is! By the way, if you see your weapon glowing like fiery hot iron and the files just exploding with redness, that's where you're gonna want to reload the files. Because at this point, every attack you do with the sword bounces off of anything you hit. So once you see red, and it doesn't matter how red, you do the same thing. You reload. And this now reloads 6 files instead of 3. Charging the blade up to red is generally fastest achieved by holding the circle, B on Xbox, and releasing once you see your arm is drawn back. This makes a double whammy slash, which gains more charge than any other attack on the charge blade. However, since we have focus level 3, we can now do a faster combo, which is triangle, press and hold circle, and then triangle again. This gives you just enough to get red and 6 files in one quick combo. Anyway, that's the simple part. Now comes the advanced stuff. Now, while the files are loaded and ready to go to release them in full discharge, we first have to load them into the shield. Nani? This is simply done in a couple of ways. Way 1, while in blade mode, you press triangle, triangle and circle again. Or Y plus Y and B plus Y and B on Xbox. This readies the axe, and before you hit with the axe, you press R2, R1 on Xbox. This makes you spin around into a guard point and back into sword mode again. Your shield is now charged. Way 2 is, instead of pressing triangle or Y on Xbox the first time, you just go with triangle and circle 3 times in a row. This is probably the easiest way, as you don't really have to remember much, but pressing R2 at the right moment. Way 3 is, after you've done the double slash after holding circle and releasing it, you can go right into shield thrust, triangle and circle, to then do it again for the axe attack, and then press R2, R1 on Xbox, when the timing is right. And the fourth way is, whenever you're in axe mode, you can press triangle and circle, which readies the attack that you can spin around to load the shield with. Okay, so congratulations, you got the shield charged, now it glows pink. This shield will now glow for 2.5 minutes, or 3 minutes if you reloaded 6 files into it instead of 5. So it's 30 seconds per file. While the shield glows, your axe attacks does more damage, as well as you can block better in sword mode. And your guard points does a small amount of file damage as well. And if you want the specifics on guard points, you can watch another video for that, I'm not gonna explain it here. While the shield glows, you can also charge your blade, which you simply do by reloading R2 plus circle, or R1 and B on Xbox, and while doing that, you can just hold triangle. But don't hold it too long, that makes you a whole lot of nothing. The blade is now charged for 45 seconds and doesn't bounce off of anything whatsoever, even at low sharpness. But back to the discharge. Remember the ways you reloaded the files into the shield? Yeah, get more files reloaded. There you go. Now you can do the same thing you did to reload the shield, but without the R2 or R1 on Xbox at the end. That's the way to release all 6 files at once. Anywho, you can also do it by pressing circle in axe mode and then pressing circle again. This of course empties a couple of files on the way, but it will also get you into a discharge. But of course you will only get like 4 files discharge, so it's not really the point of the build, you know. Now, placing the discharges can be a bit risky. Sometimes the monster doesn't move the way you think it will move, or some fellow Gastodon comes in and knocks you on your ass. But you want to place them so you hit at least through the body of the monster, or better, if you're able to, just focus it all on their head. As with this weapon in particular, the discharge does impact damage, which means that they can get stunned by it. The same goes for the sword when it's charged up as well, by the way. All those yellow sparks you see, they are stun damage. I will have to say for elemental charge blades, that's not the case though. It's just bonus elemental damage on them. And it's the same here as with a bow's dragon piercer. You would probably want to have a big monster to unleash your powers on, instead of a tiny thing you just send your waves past, as the discharge travels in a line in front of you and sometimes goes past what you want. For small monsters, I usually just go with this combo. And it knocks them on their asses quite frequently. Anyways, that's the discharge build for Diablo Charge Blade and possibly some other weapons in the future. I hope you enjoyed, and if you liked this video or any of the builds, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, as it would help out tremendously. I'll also do a subpar 2-minute run on Nergigante with a build similar to this, if you're interested in that. That will be on a link in the description and as a card at the end of the video. Otherwise, I still have a Let's Play channel, which also is in the description and at the end of this video. Anyways, I hope you'll have a great hunt, and until next time, so long.